All right, so in the last few videos, we looked at how to select elements from the DOM and do whatever we want with them. Now, in this video, I want to start to look at the relationships between element nodes. Okay, everything in the DOM is a node, and there's other types of nodes like text node, comments nodes. We're going to talk about those in the next video because there's certain properties if you want to work with those types of nodes. In this video, we're specifically going to look at element nodes. Okay, so any HTML tag on the page is an element. And I also want you to just be familiar with relationships, which you should be if you know HTML. If we look at this, basically it's pretty simple to tell that this div is a parent of these three divs inside of it. And I even gave them the class names of parent and child. And then any div that is on the same level, such as these three children, are siblings, right? So these are sibling nodes or sibling elements. And I didn't want to use the shopping list UI just because I want something very, very simple so that I can explain these methods and show you how to use them. I'm sorry, not methods. These are actually properties. And the properties I'm talking about are these ones here. Okay, so we're going to look at all these. So we have our parent element, which we just saw. It was a div with the class of parent. And then we have our three child elements. And there's different properties for us to basically traverse the DOM, move up and down. So we have a property called parent element, which does just that. We have a first element child, a last element child, next element sibling, previous element sibling, and then we also have a property of children, which gives us, I believe it's a node list of all the children. All right, so let's start to look at this in our code. So I'm going to just close that up, and I have this open. I'm going to open up my script.js here, which is completely empty, and we're going to start to look at some of these. So what we're doing here is still just selecting stuff from the DOM, but in a way where we're not directly selecting it. We're using elements we've already selected. We're using properties on those to kind of navigate and traverse to the children, the parent, the siblings, etc. So the first thing I want to show you is how we can get child elements from the parent. So let's create a variable here. I guess we can call it parent, and let's say document dot and then query selector, and I want to get the div with the class of parent. Okay, so that gives me, if I console log parent, gives me that div. All right, now I just want to create an output variable. So let's say output, just because I'm going to be console logging quite a few things. So we can just then set it to output. All right, and what I want to show you is how to get the children property. So if we look at this diagram here, there's this children property that gives us an HTML collection of all the children. So let's say output and set that to parent and then children. Now this is a property or an attribute. It's not a method. If I put parentheses here, it's going to tell me that children is not a function because it's not. It's a property. And what it gives me is an HTML collection, which is an array-like structure of all the divs in here, all the child divs. Now, since this is an array-like structure, I can access each individual element here with an index. So if I put a 1 in here, I'm going to get child 2, right? Because it's 0 base, so child 2 would be the 1 index. And I just want to show you if instead of logging this, if I do a console dir, it'll show me like all the properties and methods that I can use on this. So we can access like the ID with .id, the class list, even the children of this. We can access just all this stuff here. So just to give you kind of an example, let's put this back to console log, and let's get the inner text. Save that, we get child 2. Right, if I do, let's say, class name, I get child, because remember, it has a class of child. We could even do like the node name, which will give us a div, because that's what this is. If I take this second one here and change it to an li, then node name is going to be li. All right, so we can treat it just like we could treat a directly selected element. Now, I can change things as well. So if I want to grab, let's say, parent dot children and then 1, and let's set, we'll say text, not text, inner text or text content, whichever one. Let's set that to, I'll just, we'll say child, and then we'll spell out the word 2. So that should replace the child number 2. And I could also add styles to this. So I could say one.style.color and set that to red. So we could do that as well. Now, in addition to the children HTML collection, there's also 2 other properties that we can use on our parent, and that is first element child and last element child. Now, there is just a first child. That's not what you want, because that isn't just element nodes. That's other nodes as well, which I'll talk about in the next video. What we want to use is first element child. Okay, so, and it's a property. It's not a method, so don't put parentheses. And let's just change this. Let's say dot text or inner text, and we'll set that to child1. Save that, and you'll see it changed the first one here. And again, just to reference this diagram, from the parent, we called this right here first element child. And as you can see, there's also a last element child. So if we come back here, let's copy this down. Let's change this one to child3 and change the property from first element child to last element child. And now you can see that that's been changed. So now what I want to show you is how we can get parent elements. So get parent elements from a child, because if we look at the diagram again, it goes the other way as well. These child they have a property of parent element. Okay, and we can also access siblings as well, which I'll get to. So let's go ahead and select from the DOM. Let's select it. We'll say child and set that to document dot, and let's use query selector, and we're just going to select the first child. We're not going to use query selector all, because I don't want that. I just want to get one of these elements and show you how we can access the parent from it. Okay, so we have the child. Now let's set output, because I want to show you how we can access, let's say child, and then we can use the parent element property. So if I save that and we output, now you'll see we're outputting the parent by using the child, by using this property on the child. Now let's say we wanted to add a border around the parent div from the child. So I could say parent element, and let's set dot style dot border, and we'll set that to, let's say, 1 pixel solid, and we'll do CCC for the color. And then let's say we wanted to add some padding. So we'll say 10 pixels and change this padding and save. And now you can see there's a border around the div with the class of parent. And I didn't apply that to parent directly that I selected. I selected a child, but then I used the parent element property to access and change the style of the parent. So now let's look at sibling elements. So sibling elements, whoops, put 2 L's in there. All right, so let's grab the second item, right? So I'm going to create a variable called second item, and we're going to use document.query selector. And remember, we can put any selector we want in here. So I'm going to say I want the class of child. Now remember, there's 3 of those. I want the second one. So I'm going to use the CSS pseudo selector of nth-child and pass in a 2 here. So that will give me the second item. All right, and just to show you, let's do output, set that to second item, and save that, and you'll see that now this gives us child 2, this one right here. Now if I want to access the next sibling from second item, which would be the third one, then I could use next sibling, right? So let's set output equal to second item, and then we're going to do dot next. I'm sorry, it's not next sibling. That will do the next node no matter what it is. Next element sibling will give you the next element sibling. So let's do that. Now you see we get child 3. And if I wanted to, let's see, let's just grab this and copy it. And we could do something to this like, I don't know, we'll say style.color, and we'll set that to green. Okay, so what I've done here is I've selected the second item directly using query selector, and then I use the next element sibling property to get the next sibling, and then I turned it green. Now we also have previous element sibling, so let's copy this down, and this one, let's say orange, and I'm going to change next element sibling to previous element sibling, and now you'll see that first one is now orange because that's the previous to the second item. Okay, so hopefully this just gives you an idea of how to navigate around if you select an item but then you want to get its sibling or its parent or its child. There's different ways to do that. Now, as I said, there's other types of other types of nodes other than elements, so we're going to start to look at that in the next video.